Yeah, here we go.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today we are discussing our group case studies, and I would like to introduce myself. My name is Arman, and my group mate I have Jade and Jocelyn's. Today case study is about Goldman Sachs. If you have a background of finance or like to investing, maybe you familiar with these companies. And this is a story of a company once praised for its customer-oriented and ethical leaderships, companies that become a symbol of greed and client betrayal. How does it work? Let's delve in more. So I will conducting introduction, statement of problem, what cause of the company problems, and then analysis of cause and theory application will be delivered by Jocelyn, and solution and evaluation of preferred solution will be explained by Jade. So we have sort of facts here. Goldman Sachs, Goldman Sachs is a global leader in banking, investment, management, and securities. So facts one, we highlight that between 2007 until 2011, his CEO, Lloyd Blankfields, during his reigns, it caused a lot of ethical problems. And the regions, which is United Kingdom and United States, so there are two branches, and they have a recognitions for number one rank as 100 best companies to work. So the big companies category in the UK, and the other rank is rank high in employee engagement, leadership vision, and ethical leadership in the United Kingdom. So they has a positive organizational culture in United Kingdoms, which is a strong employee engagement. Leaders perceive as living the firm values, high score in leaderships, personal growth, and moral principle, according to 2011 surveys. However, we also found facts that it's accused of misleading in investor over mortgage-backed securities. The investor paid, the Goldman Sachs paid more than 500 million fine in July 2010. It also played a role in 2008 in financial crash and helped Greece hide its national debt. When you remember that time, Greece was collapsed due to the high debt. It also labeled as having several cultural problems by the Times and Rolling Stone magazines. For example, their arrogance, their conformity, and greed. Move on. The statement of problems. So we found two major problems. One of it is leadership shift or change in values. Under Lloyd Blankfeet reign, Goldman Sachs shifted from client-centered value to profit-driven strategy, so they care more about profit. It reduced its reputation as relationship-focused banks. And another problem is ethical culture. In United Kingdom division, praise for leadership and ethical culture. However, in US or global division, they face a reputational damage due to their greed and client betrayal. So what is client betrayal anyway? Client betrayal is like, well, if imagine if I have stocks or factory and I prospect Jet or Jocelyn to invest to my factory, I tell them the all of the positive, all of the profit only, hiding all of the risk, all of the negative effects. So it's not fair, right? So it's one of client betrayal. And another things in ethical culture is this company, it priorities its our interest over anything to its clients. So it leads to accusation of misleading investor and damaged reputations. Another sub-problem is it's this dysfunctional internal culture, uh, whether they like it or not. The internal culture is a big problem for them. For we as a third person view, their worker are happy that their internal culture, which is very extensive conformity and price chronic workaholism and arrogance, which three of these things contributes to unethical decision makings. A lot of decision making are not considered unethical. And also, most important most important things also, it's constrain employee well-being. So they focus more on workaholics, arrogance, and excessive conformity and disregard any of employee well-being. For the next part, we are talking about the analysis of cost that will be delivered by Jocelyn, my partners. Thank you. All is yours.
Thank you, Armand. Now I would like to discuss about analysis of cause. First one is leadership inconsistency. As we know that it across the world regions suggests failure in maintaining a unified organizational culture. Goldman Sachs UK and US division demonstrated contrasting leadership styles and values, revealing a lack of cohesive cultural leadership. While UK were praised for ethical employee focused leadership, and the US leadership was criticized for prioritizing profits and internal power structure. Uh, According to our book, these are the key drivers that of organizational culture. The inconsistency between regions shows a failure by a senior leadership to instill share and accountability globally. Now, second is toxic traits like arrogance and workaholism in the US indicate poor leadership, self-awareness, and weak ethical board boundaries. The US leadership culture was described as arrogant and workaholic traits often linked to toxic leadership and defined by Huck's framework. Toxic leaders tend to overvalue results like empathy and ignore any ethical concerns due to poor self-awareness, and its results can be lack of empathy and ignore of ethical concerns. Similarly, high employee engagement in the UK marks issues like burnout, showing that even strong cultures have hidden downsides. Despite high employee satisfaction in the UK, reports indicates that excessively long working hours and strain on personal well-being. Hawks highlights that even our effective leadership can produce unintended consequences when taken to extremes. A highly engaging performance culture, while often praised, can also result in overwork. Similarly, failure in the ethical leadership in the US led to legal penalties and public distrust, proving that reputation is tightly linked to moral conduct. The $550 million fine and public criticism in the USA stemmed from alleged deceptions of investors and disregard for ethical obligations. It also emphasized in ethical leadership is a foundational to the trust and legitimacy, and it can damage the brand, investor confidence, and employee trust. So it is very essential. It has illustrated that a reputation is reflection of leadership behavior, especially in the times of scrutiny. Similarly, leadership accountability was lacking at the top as profit objectives overshadowed long term stakeholders' responsibilities. It included clients, employees, and the public, and US leaders failed in their broader duty to stakeholders. Sixth point is servant leadership principles were evident in the UK but absent in the US, where client interests were deprioritized. So it can be described as the serving others first, especially employees and customers. Now, can you change the slide, please? Thank you. Now, I'd also like to discuss about the theory application. The theory that we have concluded are inter interactional framework and analyzing leadership and ethical based and transactional and transformational. The first relevant according to this case is that this framework examines leadership by focusing on three interdependent elements: the leader, the followers, and the situation. The leader in the UK leadership was characterized by strong vision, ethical principles, and living the values attributes that fostered high employee engagement and loyalty. In contrast, in the US, leadership under Lloyd Blankfein was criticized for arrogance, a lack of client focus, and excessively profit driven mindset. And similarly, the followers, UK employees were highly engaged, motivated, and proud of the culture, even at the personal cost. Example, well being due to long hours. In the US, there was disconnect content among the employees and customers of accusation and deception and self interest. And talking about the situational context differs significantly between regions. UK, a corporate environment focused on ethical leadership and employee satisfaction. US, a high stakes financial environment with intense pressure for profitability, possibly fostering ethical compromises. External pressures such as the 2008 financial crisis, media scrutiny, and legal challenges also shape the perception of leadership. Now, uh, we'll also discuss about transformational and transactional. Leadership inspire motivate followers by providing vision, meaning, and moral purpose. The UK division leaders were seen as value driven, ethical, and inspirational, aligning with transformational leadership. Employees reported high levels of engagement and respect for leadership despite of long working hours. Transactional leadership US context focuses on exchanges, bonus, tasks, targets rather than inspiration on ethics. The US leadership under Lloyd appeared more performance and profit oriented, aligning with transactional behaviors, meeting goals but neglecting the ethical responsibilities and shareholder trust. So for the presentation, I would like to invite Jade.
Yeah, thank you, Jocelyn. So, based on what my colleagues were discussing, our recommended solution is for Goldman Sachs to embrace transformational leadership, beginning at the top level of obviously. So, it's a well-established leadership style that could directly tackle the problems we've identified. So, just to further explain what transformational leadership means, so as Jocelyn mentioned previously, it's all about inspiration and change. Instead of appealing to an employee's desire for a bonus, a transformational leader appeals to their values. Transformational leaders also ask followers to transcend their own self interest for the good of the group or organization. So, in practice, this means getting people to care about goals beyond their quarterly bonus, for example, So, like the trust of the clients, reputation of the firm, and most importantly, integrity in their work. So, how would this look at Goldman Sachs? So, as mentioned before, it should start at the very top. So, the CEO and senior leaders, they need to reset their vision and values of the company and constantly communicate them. For example, Goldman's leadership could establish and preach a motto that focuses on client success, like they previously did. In fact, that was their own response to the scandal, including a same that had the same similar to the one I just mentioned. But it needs to be more than just a PR line. It must be genuinely reflected in their decision-making process. So adopting transformational leadership means those words guide strategy and daily behavior. So moving on, so they should lead by example, and this is a very critical factor. So under transformational leadership, leaders they become role models for the values they adopt. If the company claims to put clients first, the CEO must demonstrate that, even if it costs some profit. When employees see top executives sacrificing a short-term gain to uphold the principle, it sends a powerful message that integrity matters more than money. So, by consistently always doing the right thing and never compromising principles, leaders earn trust. Over time, that trust will run through the organization. So, employees trust leadership not to throw them under the bus, and clients trust the firm to genuinely partner with them and not prey on them. So, next is we have inspiration motivation, which is about how leaders communicate and rally the team. Goldman Sachs leaders would need to articulate a compelling vision of what the firm stands for and where it's headed. Perhaps the vision is to be the most trusted financial advisor or to lead the industry in client satisfaction. The key is that it's something aspirational that employees can take pride in. Transformational leaders are often very effective communicators as well. So, in Goldman Sachs' case, leaders should frequently talk about the importance of client trust, long term reputation, and each employee's role in upholding the firm's legacy. This gives employees a sense of purpose. So, by restoring a sense of higher purpose, you engage employees' intrinsic motivation. Transformational leadership also practices individualized consideration, meaning they support and coach their followers. For Goldman Sachs, this could involve training programs in ethical decision making, mentoring for junior staff on how to balance client services with revenue goals, and finally, forums where employees can voice concerns without fear. So remember, part of the toxicity was that employees felt like cogs who could be fired at any time. In a healthier culture, however, leaders show that they value their people. They implement, for example, a 360-degree feedback or ensure managers are recognizing employees who do the right thing, but not just the profitable thing. The result is that people feel heard and valued. This reduces fear and internal competition and instead fosters teamwork and loyalty. So moving on to the next slide, please. So now, why is transformational leadership the best solution for Goldman's specific problems? So let's connect the dots. First, focusing on the ethical culture, transformational leadership it directly targets the ethical breakdown. So in this case, a transformational leader would make ethical behavior a core part of the company's identity again, much like it might have been in Goldman Sachs' earlier years. Employees get a clear message where integrity is expected and will be rewarded, just as unethical behavior will not be tolerated. This top-down moral leadership is essential to reserve the anything for a buck culture that had taken place, as my colleagues mentioned previously. Next thing is it builds client trust. Transformation leadership is very effective at rebuilding trust because it emphasizes honesty, integrity, and concern for others, all of which resonate with the followers and stakeholders. So when leaders genuinely care about clients, they start to trust the institution again. Internally, employees trust leaders who treat them with respect and fairness. So trust was short in supply at Goldman in 2010, since clients felt betrayed and employees were disillusioned by the vision of the company. So by demonstrating consistent ethical conduct and putting clients first, transformational leaders send the signal that everyone's in this together for the long run. Over time, this will draw clients back and re-engage employees. If Goldman had been more transparent and accountable with clients during the crisis, perhaps client relationships would not have soured so much. Going forward, this transparency can be part of the new leadership ethos. Moving on, we have next is the long-term focus. So one of the big advantages, no, just back on the slide. One of the big advantages of transformational leadership is that it encourages thinking beyond short-term self-interest. For example, a transformational leader might forego a deal that makes the firm money if it hurts the client or the firm's reputation tomorrow. Say they would choose not to go with it, obviously. So this kind of foresight ensures that the business is sustainable. And ethical leadership teaches you that you don't compromise tomorrow's integrity and success for today's gain. So while some might worry that focusing on ethics and clients means less focus on profit, research suggests the opposite in the long run. Companies with strong transformational leadership often see higher employee engagement, innovation, and performance. People are willing to go the extra mile because they believe in what they're doing. So at Goldman, imagine employees who are not only financially motivated, but also emotionally and ethically invested in the firm's mission. They will likely serve clients better or find creative solutions, also attract new businesses through their positive reputation. Transactional leadership alone could never achieve that level of commitment, only produces the effort needed to get the reward and nothing more. So moving on to the next slide, please. So of course, implementing transformational leadership is a journey and comes with its challenges. So let's talk about the implications if Goldman Sachs were to adopt the solution. On the positive side, the changes could be profound. Client relationships would improve significantly, and instead of feeling like they have to be wary of selling them bad deals, clients would see a partner that values their success. This could restore their reputation in the market, which in turn brings in more business because people trust their brand again. Internally, employees would benefit from a healthier culture. Morale would rise as employees feel proud of working at a principled firm rather than feeling conflicted or ashamed. When people feel valued and see leadership doing the right thing, loyalty increases, and Goldman could retain its talent better and avoid public embarrassments. In the big picture, a firm that operates ethically and with long-term visions is less likely to face scandals, lawsuits, or fines from regulatory agencies. That means more stable performance over time. The long-term profitability of Goldman can actually become more secure because it's built on real client loyalty and solid risk management, not on exploiting situations. So now the challenges and possible implementation risks are there's a few to discuss. So in the short run, transformational leadership might require sacrificing some immediate revenue or changing lucrative practices. For instance, if Goldman stops a practice of selling very complex, high-fee products that clearly aren't beneficial to the client, that's short money left off the table. Shareholders and analysts might not like the change at first, but transformational change can also prompt a cultural clash. That's why they might not like it. Some senior people who grew up in Goldman Sachs' harder edge culture, they may resist the new direction. They might dismiss all of this talk of vision and values as waste, which would make obviously implementing that theory harder. So yeah, that basically sums up our analysis of the case study. Thank you everyone for listening and hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.